I guess what are you looking forward to with the Futures game, being able to manage it and, against Beltray? How exciting is that for you?
Yeah, it's gonna be a great time. First, having kind of kick off to the All Star festivities is what the Futures game sort of represents, along with the future of the sport, obviously. But this whole thing is going to be a massive celebration for our organization, for Major League Baseball, for the city, and of course for Adrian's induction into the Hall of Fame. So to kind of kick that off is going to be a ton of fun. Regarding the game itself, I mean, this is the future of our game. And you look at the past guys who have been a part of this game, and so many of them have gone on to, now be faces of the sport. So to have a day there where I get to hang out with these kids and kind of, see them enjoy it is going to be a ton of fun for me.
Have you asked any managers for advice on how to do this?
Yeah, when they first asked me to do it, I was a little nervous because, being in charge of pitching staffs, especially, given my the experience we have at the WBC, that can be a little tricky. But they kind of say that they basically make it super easy for the managers. There's someone in the dugout basically letting us know who's pitching next, when someone should get up. They basically kind of hold us by the hand for that stuff, sending me feel a little bit better.
Thank you.
You got it.
Stephen Hawkins.
Hey, Mike. Outside of your participation in All-Star games, have you ever been in an All-Star game outside of that?
No, I haven't. That's it. Never have. This is it. This would be the only game I've ever been to that I have actually not played in. Yeah, this is it. First one for me.
So what's the biggest memory you have? Obviously, I know you were the MVP of the one game, but what stands out about the All-Star games that you were in and that you remember the most?
I mean, honestly, I really have special memories of every single one. Every game, there's probably something that kind of stands out as to why it was special. Houston is my first one. Detroit, my son had just been born. Pittsburgh, I was the MVP. I mean, I can go on and on about why everyone was special. But I think the biggest thing is I actually just love the All-Star game. I know a lot of times players are asked, say mid-June when they're getting close to find out who makes it. I would get asked, how do you feel about it? And the standard answer is like, well, if I make it, I make it. If not, I want to make sure I'm there for my team. But like, I get it, but I wanted to make it every single year. I had a blast at All-Star games. It really was a fun time. I think that of all the sports, this one does the best job. It's incredibly competitive. Guys want to play well. It's a fun time, and I had a blast doing it.
How different you think it would have been if you'd gotten to play an All-Star game at home like this one in Texas?
Oh, for sure. I think every player would love to have that big ovation from your home crowd. Never got an opportunity to do it, but I remember the last time they got it done was, I think Pudge was the starter for the Rangers, and I was young watching that game. I remember a lot actually. I remember Frank Thomas being in the lineup. I remember Buck was the manager. I remember a lot about it. So I hope we have some representation for the Rangers and they get to experience that.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Yep.
We'll go to Jeff Wilson.
Hey, Michael. So, what does it mean to be an all-star?
Wow. Hard to say. I remember the first one I made. I remember Eric Young pulled me aside and he was like, "Hey, you're an all-star forever now. They can never take it away from you." And I never kind of felt that. I felt there was a difference between making an all-star team and actually being an all-star. There's guys that get snubbed every year that should make it, but they're all-star level and all-star caliber players. And there's guys that make all-star teams, you never hear from them again. So I felt that to me, it was important to kind of like play at an all-star level. But as far as making the game, it really is an incredible time. You get to kind of, see what guys are like. Some guys are very, very reserved. Some pitchers, they don't want to make friends with hitters. Some pitchers, they don't care. They're talking to everybody. I remember the first one I went through, I got a really, really cool email from Cal Ripken, and he said, "Hey," he goes, "bit of advice, find the one pitcher that gives you fits and go make friends with them. They'll take their edge away." So sure enough, I mean, needless to say, me and Josh Beckett got really tight after that. So there was always a lot of cool things that happen in All-Star games. But again, I had a blast. Fortunately for me, I think there was only one time where I went by myself. Usually I was with a bunch of teammates.
Do you weren't on this team, but you remember Hank Blaylock's home run and how he did not win the game MVP.
Yeah.
Was there a kerfuffle about that afterwards?
Um, kind of. I mean, we were excited. We would have obviously liked to seen that thing come home. Because that would have actually, looking back, that would have gave us. I think Sorey got it in '04, right? So if Hank got it in '03, Sorey got it in '04. I think I got it in '06, and even texted a homer in '05. We could have run off something pretty cool there over the course of about 3 or 4 years. But I remember, I think in that game, Garrett Anderson got the MVP of that game, and Garrett was one of those guys. Even though we played in the same division, they talk about these guys a lot, but Garrett was definitely one of them who just got league wide respect for how he played the game, for how good he was, and I think he got 2 hits, one of them being a homer too. So, definitely a worthy MVP.
So on Saturday, if it's a tie game in the ninth and the leadoff man gets on, are you going to bunt? Are you going to call for a bunt?
If I bunt, Adrian will throw a shoe from across the way at me. So yeah, that's not going to happen. Yeah. Matter of fact, if anyway, we already kind of like our coaching staff has a bit of a text thread going on right now, and we're like 10 burpees for every kid that doesn't try to hit one in the second deck. So I'm honestly, I can't imagine. I truly can't imagine putting anything on. Everybody's got the green light. Every base runner can steal. Every hitter can swing 3-0. I want these guys to be able to kind of see this as a way to showcase what they're able to do, and I'm not going to be the one to hold them back.
All right, thanks, man.
You got it.
Evan Grant.
Well, I was told this was about an ambassadorship.
Here we go. Here we go. Just we don't need jokes. Just go ahead. You're good.
Do you recall who won the '95 MVP in the All-Star game since you were watching that?
95.
Yeah, the one in Arlington.
Yeah. Gosh dang it. Jeff Conine won that.
There you go. Listen, why is this the best? Why is the MLB All-Star Game the best All-Star Game? Why does baseball do this so well? We spend so much time talking about things that baseball doesn't do well. Why does baseball do this so well?
Well, I think the game itself lines itself to be very competitive, right? I mean, in football, for obvious reasons, they're not going to go all out. In basketball, I mean, they've gone a whole half where it's a grind, right? You're playing defense all the time. Obviously, I think we'd love to have scores not be 180 to 170 in the NBA game. I'm a huge NBA fan myself. They used to be alley-oop city, and then in the fourth quarter, if the game was tight, they'd get going, and that was a lot of fun to watch. But I think right now guys they just see it as they're exhausted. They don't want to really exert themselves too much. And then you look at the MLB All-Star Game, and you can really go all out, right? You're not exerting a ton of energy. You're not doing anything differently in those games than you do in the other game. You're usually going to have a bit of a low-scoring game because pitching is just flat out dominant. But I just think that the energy and the enthusiasm for this game, you come off the home run derby, which always does well. It's a lot easier for the home run derby to be successful in the slam dunk contest, right? There's not much creativity in a home run derby, just trying to hit the thing as far as you can, and the fans love it. So I think the way the game lines up, it just shapes up to be incredibly entertaining. Fans get to see great players. They get to see guys who have been staples in the All-Star game. You have your true stars, your Aaron Judges of the world, your Bryce Harpers of the world. Then you have guys who are going to make it for the first time. Your Gunnar Hendersons and Bobby Witts. You guys want to see the housekeeping service coming for the hotel? Hi, how are you? It's okay. Can you just give me like 5 more minutes? Thank you. All right, bye.
This is an interview here. This is a serious interview.
Well, John said local, so yeah, no offense. So, what the hell was I saying?
I don't know.
Oh, the All-Star game. It's incredible. It's really, really cool. There you go.
What's your first cognizant memory of an All-Star game? Like how young were you that you remember something from an All-Star game?
Yeah, Fernando Valenzuela. That was probably my first one. I remember Dwight Gooden starting because I was Dwight Gooden kind of like grabbed the whole country. He's like 19 years old, rookie of the year, wins a Cy Young. I remember he started. And then of course Bo Jackson leads off, goes deep. I'm a Raider fan. That was a big one. Really can kind of go on and on. The All-Star game for me, I watched every single one, love them all. And to be in a situation now where I was able to play in a few and then see the game now where it's as talented as ever. And all these guys bring such special skill sets to the game. It really is an incredible midway point for the sport. And I'm glad that they've done so much to embrace it and add a couple new things to it.
Hey, last thing on on the futures game. The first futures game was 99, and I think you were probably what, at Class A that year?
It was, yeah.
And I don't even know if that was a thing to you, like, hey, I'd like to play in the futures game. But A, was it? And B, like, what has this become for young players?
Yeah, I don't even think I was really on that radar, when I was in a minor league. Vernon went 99. I know he had a great time. I think it was in Boston. And then it became, bigger and bigger. So yeah, it would have been something I would love to go play, but that's kind of not where my, minor league trajectory was really at the time. But now to see these guys now who, really have a who's who of young players in the big leagues that have all participated in this game. And it goes to show you that, these minor league prospects, this is kind of like another notch on the ladder for them as they kind of progress towards the major leagues. Again, I mean, they've all done it. So, it's going to be cool. There's so many incredibly talented players. The rosters got announced and so many really, really talented guys that we get a chance to hang out with for a day. So, again, I'm really looking forward to it.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
We'll now go to T.R. Sullivan.
Oh, baby.
Hi, TR.
Hi, Michael. Major League Baseball has really worked hard in creating an all-star week where the fans can increase their participation in the whole event rather than just watching the game. How important do you think that is for the fans, and how important is it for the players to be able to react and mingle with the fans during this week?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of the two. I think you nailed that one. I mean, the fans get an opportunity to come to our ballpark. Texas Live is right there. They're going to come in. They're going to see how great our ballpark is especially when they walk inside, and they're not going to be sweating bullets. That's going to be a big thing for them. And then players, of course, at All-Star games, they really I think players are very, very aware of what the All-Star game is, right? It's a showcase for our sport. It's a way for them. They're basically serving as ambassadors for our game for that weekend. And I think they really do a great job making sure the fans feel at home and they feel like this is a place where they're going to, come and celebrate the game. And I think players really, really embrace that part of it. So, I think it's a combination of the two, but especially when you have the game's really, really, truly biggest stars and they seem to be very, very comfortable in front of, with a microphone in front of a camera and hanging out and talking to fans. So I think it's going to be a incredibly fun time for both parties. Yeah.
I mean, you got three boys, and what do you think it's like for them? I know that I don't remember if they were in the clubhouse or not, but what do you think it's like for them to be involved in Major League Baseball activities like this?
So my boys love it. And I think when I was a player, I don't know if you guys were around me as a player. I don't know if you guys ever saw my boys in the locker room. I didn't make much of a habit of bringing my boys around. Even in the summertime, my boys were young. And, our game ends at 10. And at that point, they'd probably been in bed for about an hour. We kind of had them on, they had bedtimes and it didn't involve, hanging out in locker rooms till 11 or 12 at night. But now that they're growing up, and, especially it kind of a light bulb moment for me during the WBC when they were around a lot. And I'm seeing there, and next thing I look around and my oldest is striking up a conversation with Mookie. My young guy is following JT around like a little puppy dog. I mean, it was super, super cool to see this happen with my boys because I never really had a chance to do it, in the locker room here in Texas. But again, I think it speaks to, what young kids really, their imaginations run wild when they see this kind of stuff. And the All-Star game is really front and center for that.
I got one more question because this name came up, and I also noticed everybody who's coming out as a coach. Have you been in contact with Hank Blaylock, and what do you think Hank meant to this team? Jeff brought up the home run, and at one time he and Teixeira were like the face of the franchise, and he kind of disappeared. What do you remember about Blaylock, and what do you know about what he's doing today?
Yeah, he's in San Diego. We keep in touch. He's doing well. He's coaching a lot of baseball right now, youth baseball. I think he has a travel club down in San Diego. His career started, and Hank just started out like crazy, right? I mean, went to a couple All-Star games, hit the big homer, was, a huge part of our team. And I think a lot, when you talk about, you mentioned me, Hank and Tex, and it was definitely more of a transition time for our team. It was an interesting time, to say the least. I mean, Alex was here. Alex gets traded. The organization is in a bit of flux, and they basically kind of said that they really were leaning on, Hank Tex and me to kind of get this thing going a little bit. But he was a great teammate, always fun to be around, funny dude. But yeah, he's doing well. I was glad that when the ballpark closed down in 2019, to see him out there with a Ranger jersey on, to have him, I guess, kind of get his little goodbye to the stadium, goodbye to the organization, goodbye to the fans. I know it meant a lot to Hank. So that was the last time I actually saw him, and it was great to see him then. But yeah, we definitely still keep in touch.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you, John Blake. I'm good.
Okay, let's go back to, we'll take a few more here. Let's go back to Stephen.
Mike, you're talking about a little bit about the old park. Obviously, you mentioned a minute ago how nice the new park is, but when you go by the old place, what's your memories? What stands out when you go over there? And I mean, obviously, I think everybody likes the air conditioner, but what is it you remember about that place, and how's it special?
A lot. Like your mind kind of bounces. My mind kind of just bounces around from place to place to place when I see that place. The first being, we clinched trips to the World Series in that ballpark with packed houses and game ends and dog piles and fireworks and celebrations in the locker room. That clearly sticks out in my mind. 4 to 5 hour games the first 3 years of my career stick out in my mind. Hot day games stick in my mind. But I think the biggest thing when I drive by that place, I see the progression of where the organization was, where it finished up when that place closed down. To see, you finished in the late '90s with the team doing really, really well. I got there and we were kind of trying to reestablish some level of identity as an organization. To see it build about a decade later to something really cool, and to be right in the middle of it was a huge honor. So that's probably the biggest thing that I think of when I see that ballpark.
Hey, I got there right before you did, so I wasn't part of the earlier stuff. So
There you go.
all right, Mike, thank you, man.
You got it.
Okay, back to Jeff.
Hey, Michael, I want to ask about two players. What are your impressions of Sebastian Walcott?
Big, big kid, man. That's the first impression, right? But to be that age, I mean, I was in high school, like literally, like trying to figure out the next step in my career, and this guy's already kind of on his way. I think the biggest thing though is, while we recognize that he's such a talented kid, just to be very, very intentional in how he's developed as a player. The kid usually kind of is the driver of this thing, right? His performance will dictate a ton. But I think it's important that when you're talking about such a talented young kid, that you don't skip steps. You make sure that there's a good foundation laid so that he has he can kind of troubleshoot out of some tough spots that every player is naturally going to go through, especially young players. So I think it's important to really make sure that we're very intentional on how he's developed. I know our team has done, and our development group and our farm system has obviously had a very clear plan on how they're going to do that. But yeah, an incredibly talented kid with a very bright future, and I'm looking forward to having a front row seat for that.
And then Bobby Wood Jr., I think you spent a little time around him in high school. What did you see then, and what do you see now?
I honestly, there's not enough time on the Zoom to talk about him. I just think the world of the kid. I remember the first time I had a relationship with his dad, obviously, for a while. We went into his house. Me, JD, and Kip went into his house before the draft. I think that was in 2019, I believe, year before COVID.
Yes.
And I think we had a pick that wasn't number 2 or 1. So I remember we're on the way to the front door, and I remember asking JD or Kip, I'm like, why are we here again? I'm like, there's no chance this kid's getting to us, right? And, some guys, you meet them for the first time and you're kind of shocked at how big they are, right? Some players look like a lot of players, you see them on TV, then you get up on them and you realize they're sneaky big. And that was Bobby. But just a really, really good kid. And then to have a ton of time around during the WBC, where basically he signed up for a role he knew he was going to kind of be coming off the bench, pinch running. Our infield was kind of loaded. Looking back now, I mean, what were we doing? Me and D-Row talk about that one all the time, right? It was, you look at the team that we had, right? You look on the left side of the field, we had Nolan and Trey who were going nuts during the tournament, right? It's like, Bobby kind of knew his role would be kind of like learning from those guys, understanding that the next time WBC rolled around, that he'd be one of the big dogs on the team. And that's the way it's looking right now. Again, I think the world of the kid. Super happy for him. Happy for the contract he got. Happy for all the success he's having in the first half of the year. And the biggest thing that I love with players nowadays, I really enjoy watching players where it's very clear that they love to play, they love to compete, and it's very clear that Bobby loves to play. So, super happy for him.
Thank you very much.
Yep. We'll finish up with Evan Grant.
I need to make sure of something here. You said your first conscious memory of the All-Star game is Fernando.
You say conscious, cognizant, dude. I'm 47. Stop saying. I mean, your words are terrible.
But Fernando in 81. You have a memory from when you were 5 years old.
I don't have memory of the actual game. I have memory of my family literally gathering around to watch him. Right, if that makes sense. Being 5 years old watching the game, I'm pretty sure I was in and out of the house, like running through screen doors the whole time. But I remember that it was a big deal for my whole family. Huge deal. Being again in LA, that was my Mexican side of the family, right? So this was not a small deal. Matter of fact, when I first got traded to the Dodgers in 2013, I was only there for a few months, and I got to meet some of the people who were kind of the higher ups in the organization. They asked me how I like it. I'm like, I love it. Everything's going great. When are you going to retire Fernando's number? And I remember literally, and the Dodgers for a while had, you had to be a Hall of Famer to be, have your number retired. And I get it. I mean, that's every organization is different. And I totally understand. But Fernando's impact there, even now, when you go there and you see kind of like the Dodger Stadium demographics and you see this massive cultural swing and how much it means to them that Fernando was a Dodger. If there's ever an outlier, it's him. Very, very, special time to be a Dodger fan.
So, and if there's one thing, from you've got a unique perspective having played in 7 and won an MVP, but if there's one thing from watching an All-Star game that sticks out to you as like a memory that left an imprint, what would you say? And why?
For me personally, you mean?
Yeah.
From
a fan perspective, more than as a player.
Sure. Honestly, for me, I think from a fan perspective, the '08 game was especially the lead up to the '08 game was the last one at Old Yankee Stadium. They had All-Star games there before. It was one of the ones I really, going into the season, I really, really wanted to be a part of that one. For that reason, we were the home team, which means that we're going to be in the home clubhouse. I kind of wanted to get there and soak that one up. At that point, Pittsburgh had already kind of come and gone. I played one in San Francisco, and it was beautiful there. Houston, Detroit, but I really wanted a piece of that New York one. I remember we were actually playing the Orioles, and I had a relationship with Tito since he was a coach here in Texas, and he was managing the team that year. And he called me in my hotel room in Baltimore, and he's like, "Well, I'm only be a couple 4-letter words involved, but I'd only be calling you for one reason right now." And I was like, I remember finding out years before, and I was excited about going to the All-Star game, but I was super pumped about that. It didn't disappoint, apart from the, 8-hour game we played or whatever it was. The game itself and the festivities and how much the players seemed to really, really love that. Josh, of course, in the home run derby. It was a really, really cool All-Star experience in '08.
It's a long way for you to say you should have won the MVP for having a walk-off sac fly, isn't it?
No. Should have won a couple years earlier. I had a base hit up the middle, Evan, and I got a guy thrown out at the plate. Would have been a walk-off hit. Terrible.
And from watching on TV, is there something from when you were a kid that really, really left an imprint on you that this is a cool experience?
Yeah, Bo Jackson kind of sticks out. That was a special moment for me. I mean, at that point, I think I was 12 years old. Game was in Anaheim, so pretty local. Bo was a Raider. I mean, what Bo was doing at that point, grabbed I had the poster in my room with Bo with the bat and the shoulder pads, and I had that in my room. I mean, he captured everybody's imagination, right? And leading off a game, against I remember Rick Russell. By the way, no offense to Rick Russell, had a fantastic career, but I remember the pitch that Bo hit was like an 84-mile-an-hour sinker. I don't think that would play in today's All-Star game, by the way. Again, it's not comparing generations, but it's kind of interesting to watch see what these guys throw now. I mean, you're going to crown the game in a couple of days, and everyone's going to be throwing 98 and up. So it's a different time to be playing baseball.
The last thing I'll let you sign off with, how much fun is this going to be, this reunion? Because between the two, the AL and the NL squad, there's going to be basically a dozen players you played with. I imagine it's going to be fun for you and Adrian and all the guys, but what do you think it'll mean to the fans here, the localized fans?
I love that what Major League Baseball sort of prioritized when it comes to the futures game, right? You want it to be a celebration, clearly, of the players who are going to be the next generation of the big leagues, but you also want to be a celebration of your ballpark, your organization, and your city. So this is important for the Rangers. This is there's been a lot of hard work that has been, building up from one, just launching the stadium in the first place during COVID, having a World Series here that wasn't even ours, having a World Series here that was ours. And now to see it kind of come to this at the All-Star game is a really, really important step for the Rangers. And we're all super proud to be a part of it. But yeah, I love the fact that Futures Game is usually reflective of players who have played here in the past. And they make a big effort to make sure that the players who are, or the coaching staff are guys who had big moments here. And our staff is the same way. Adrian, I have a couple personal picks. I know he's got Raul, I got Vernon, and my buddy Gabe from high school. But for the most part, it is guys who had big moments playing in this organization who fans can relate to, and the fans have memories of seeing play. So I think it's going to be really, really cool to have that. I'm looking forward to seeing those guys again. To all be there together to offer Adrian, our congratulations right before he heads on out to Cooperstown. It's going to be really cool too.
All right. Well, congratulations on your ambassadorship. Good luck in diplomacy.
Thank you, Evan.